Ask yourself a question before we begin. Are you 100% certain that the person sitting next to you is your soulmate? Most people say yes just to avoid the argument, but in the world of Rachel Harkin, that 8% of doubt isn't just a relationship red flag, it's a death sentence. Netflix's Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen is a nightmare disguised as a wedding invitation. It's a story about love, blood, and a deal with death that has been hunting one family for centuries. We're going to break down the ending, the terrifying origin of the witness, and the blood-soaked fate of the world's unluckiest bride. But before we dive into the bloodbath, if you enjoy deep dives into the darkest corners of Netflix, make sure to subscribe to Mentebit. We analyze the stories that keep you awake at night. Rachel Harkin is a behavioral psychologist. She studies why people do the things they do. But as she arrives at the secluded Cunningham estate to marry her fiancé, Nikki, she's about to realize that science doesn't mean a thing when you're dealing with an ancient debt. The first few minutes of the show give us a glimpse of the future. A white wedding dress turning crimson, screams echoing through hallways, bone-chilling stick figures hanging in the woods. This isn't just foreshadowing, it's a countdown. Enter the witness, a mysterious man who looks like he hasn't slept in a century. He approaches Rachel with a single cryptic question. Are you sure he's the one? See, the witness knows the truth. Centuries ago, his ancestor made a deal with death itself to bring her lover back to life. But death is a freaking liar. The deal came with a condition. Every descendant in that bloodline must marry their true soulmate. If they marry the wrong person, they die before the sun goes down on their wedding night. If you were told you would die at sunset if your partner wasn't your true soulmate, would you still walk down that aisle? Let me know your honest answer in the comments. Narrator. Rachel doesn't believe in ghosts or curses. That is until her estranged father, Jay, kidnaps her. He doesn't want her money. He wants her to see a tape from 1997. The footage is grainy, shaky. It shows Rachel's mother, Alex, on her wedding night in these same mountains. Everything looks perfect until the sun hits the horizon. Suddenly, Alex begins to hemorrhage. Blood starts pouring from every orifice. She's dying in seconds. In a scene that will haunt your dreams, Jay has to perform an emergency C-section on his own dying wife using a kitchen knife just to save the baby. That baby was Rachel. She was born out of a bloodbath because her mother married a man who wasn't her soulmate. Her father's last words to her on that tape were a desperate howling, "I'm sorry." This level of psychological trauma is exactly why we love breaking these shows down. If you want more cinematic explanations like this, hit that like button and join the Mentebit family. Narrator. Now, Rachel is panicking. She's a scientist, but the data is undeniable. She checks the records. Every ancestor who got married in her family died that same day. The ones who lived, they were the ones who stayed single or had children out of wedlock. Accepting a marriage proposal is literally like pulling the pin on a grenade, so she turns to the only thing left, the occult. With the help of her kooky sister-in-law, Portia, she prepares a curse remover cocktail. And guys, this is where it gets disgusting. To break the curse, she needs 1. Something living from the groom, 2. Something stolen from her mother-in-law, 3. Something red from an enemy, and 4. Something dead from herself. She actually chops off her own pinky toe to satisfy the ritual. She mixes it with champagne and blood. It's a total Hail Mary. But as she stands at the altar, looking into Nikki's eyes, she decides not to drink it. She chooses to believe. She chooses that leap of faith. This is the moment. Rachel says her vows. She is ready to commit. But then, the biggest twist of the series happens. Nikki, the man she's sacrificing everything for, says no. He's disillusioned. He found out his parents' perfect marriage was a lie. He thinks he's being romantic by saying they don't need a piece of paper to be happy. He tells her, "Screw the curse, I don't believe in it." But the curse doesn't care if you believe in it. By refusing to marry her, Nikki has just triggered a massive failsafe. Because they didn't complete the ceremony by sundown, the curse doesn't just target the bride anymore, it targets the entire Cunningham bloodline. The sun touches the horizon, and the estate becomes a slaughterhouse. Victoria, the mother-in-law, starts vomiting blood. Guests who are thousands of miles away, talking on their phones, suddenly collapse as their lungs fill with fluid. It is a literal ocean of red. In the chaos, they try to finish the wedding. Nikki screams his "I do" over the bodies of his dying family. The witness signs the paper. The deal is technically done, but death always gets its due. Rachel dies. She falls onto the blood-soaked floor, another victim of the Cunningham legacy. But the next morning, she opens her eyes. She hasn't just survived, she has been transformed. She finds the corpse of the old witness with the message written in blood. Your turn. Rachel is now the immortal observer. She is the new witness. She is cursed to watch Nikki's bloodline for eternity, ensuring they never make the same mistake. She finds Nikki in a catatonic state. He's a shell of a man. She looks at his young nephew, Jude, and tells him to remember this day. Be careful who you choose to marry, because I'll be there, witnessing it. As Rachel leaves the property in the witness's old truck, we see a fox in the road, a fox that has chewed off its own paw to escape a trap, just like Rachel chopped off her toe to try to escape her fate. The show leaves us with a haunting question about luck. Throughout the season, Rachel found pennies everywhere, thinking the universe was giving her signs. But in the end, we find out Nikki was planting them. There was no luck. There was only manipulation. The music playing in the truck is We Will Not Be Lovers. It's a perfect, tragic choice. Rachel is no longer a wife. She is a ghost, a monitor, a piece of a centuries-old machine that demands blood for love. Do you think Rachel becoming the witness was her destiny, or did she have a choice to walk away earlier? Let's argue about it in the comments. Something Very Bad Is Going to Happen lives up to its title in the most brutal way possible. It's a reminder that sometimes a leap of faith is just a jump into an open grave. If you enjoyed this cinematic deep dive into the Cunningham's curse, don't forget to subscribe to Mentebit and hit that notification bell. We cover the most twisted series and movies every single week, so you never miss a detail. What did you think of that ending? Was it a masterpiece or just too dark? Drop a comment below. We read every single one. Thanks for watching, and remember, be very careful who you say "I do" to. See you in the next story. Don't freaking quit.